Hello guys, today's task is to change the transmission fluid in this nice 25-year-old Jag. It's a straight 6 engine 3.2 liter, the smaller engine. It still drives nice though, and these are no race cars anyways. So we're gonna do the transmission fluid change in the proper way, because just by opening the sump and dropping the oil, that's not gonna take more than probably 1/3 of the fluid in the whole system. And the reason for that is because it's not just the sump where the oil sits. It sits in the torque converter. It also sits in the transmission fluid cooler at the front and in the pipes everywhere. So the proper way to do this is by using one of the trans flush machines, which is this one here. And what it does, this is basically hooked up now on the vehicle and the transmission pipes. This is the pipe that goes to the cooler or the radiator at the front. So basically we disconnected it from there. We connected the pipe, one end of the pipe here, and then this pipe goes in the machine. The other pipe comes out and just carries on going into the cooler. So basically we just integrated the machine in the system. And what we're gonna do is press this button, and once we've done that, or when we do that, the machine starts to take the old oil off. The old fluid's going to flow into this tank, and it's going to pump up the new fluid. Usually this box looks like that, and you can just measure up how much fluid you want to change. Usually it's 10 to 12, 13 liters on these sort of cars in total. It's also good to just leave 1 or 2 liters to overlap, because what it does, it takes the fluid that flows in, it's going to dump it in here, and at the same time it's going to pump the same amount of fluid up in the pipe. So basically we're just cutting the fluid flow. We're going to start to push new fluid through the system, which circulates all around and should end up coming back here. So there is a 1 or 2 liter overlap, and after that it's gonna just have brand new fluid in the whole system. And this is the window, and there is a spinning propeller inside, and as you see it's quite dark. So I'm gonna add the flashlight. You barely can see the propeller, although I've seen worse. So this can turn, the fluid itself can just be so burnt out that it just turns into black, and you can't see any of these propellers here. It looks literally like the diesel oil the engine oil that you drop off of a diesel car. So what I'm going to do now is flick this button, and now we're pumping. So old fluid is flowing here. You see it's quite dark, and the fresh fluid color is basically orange. Sorry, it's reddish orange. And we should see this in a couple of minutes. There's roughly around 10 liter in this bottle, that hence I haven't changed it. We're gonna see this color, the oil, the tube window. It's gonna just start to clear out in a minute. So I'm gonna just pause this video and let this run through, because it takes 5 to 10 minutes to do the job, and we'll get back to it. And here we go. So as you see, now the program has run, it's finished, and the way it knows that it needs to stop is this little float. So there is a float inside there. I'm going to zoom out. So there's a float inside, and once the level drops, you just need to make sure that the pickup pipe is lower than the actual flow, and then it just stops when it reaches the bottom. And have a look at that color. That's a massive difference. So yeah, basically this is it. This is all. What we need to do now is drop the sump and change the filter as well. So what you can do in case if you don't have this brilliant machine is to go the manual way, drop 1/3 of the oil and then top it back up, let it run for a couple of days, and then you drop 1/3 and stop it back up. But to be honest, I'll just try to find a garage who has this tool, and then it's just easier and cheaper in the long term, especially if you calculate what time you need to spend just laying under the car, dropping 1/3 of the oil one by one. So basically you just dilute that way the oil all the time. It's never going to be 100% changed like it is in this vehicle now, but that's also an option if there is no access to one of these machines. So I'm going to just raise this vehicle up, and I'll show you how to change the gearbox filter as well. And here we are. So this is the gearbox fluid sump, and this is the engine oil sump. So we're going to disconnect this pipe here. This is for the gearbox dipstick. We let the oil run out, and we're going to undo these M6 bolts all around, and then drop the sump. And once the sump's down, then we will see the filter itself. So the sump has been removed now, and this grey box is the actual filter. This is what we need to change. It's held up by 3 Torx screws, and the sump itself is quite clean. These 2 little things are magnets in the sump to collect all the metal particles that may come off during operation, and they do have some, but that's still absolutely fine for the age and the mileage, which is 110,000 miles. Also, the sump itself has a gasket like that comes in with the new filter in a kit. I'll show you in a minute, and this has to be changed. Funny enough, in newer vehicles you need to change the sump itself if you change the filter, because the filter may be integrated or maybe not, but usually you can't get the separate seal for a gasket for the actual sump, so you need to replace the entire sump, which costs a lot more money than it does on this one. That's something that has changed with newer vehicles. On these old Jags, this is all you need to buy, which comes in a kit. That's the new sump gasket, which you can put on. Comes with an O-ring that seals the actual filter and the filter itself. You can get this from British part, so at least this is where I got it from, and it costs, I don't know, something around 10-15 pounds, something like that. So it's not really expensive. This is, if you compare it to, let's say, a new 6-speed ZF gearbox, which let's say 10-15 years old BMWs have, you need to change the sump as well, and that costs anything between, or anything above 150 quid basically. Right, so the new filter is in now, it's been installed. So what I need to do is tighten up these screws. There's one here, there's one there, and the third one is there. So 2 here, one at the back. Is T27 Torx, and after that we're gonna clean out the sump and install the new sump gasket and put the sump back in place. So the sump is all clean now. Magnets are also cleaned, so it is ready to go back in its place, and then we can refill the oil. And now it's all back in place. So some has been replaced. We're going to tidy it up so we don't leave any oil residue behind. And just an interesting fact, this is the amount that has come off. This is probably this is a 5-liter can, so let's say that's probably around 3 liters in it. This is what comes off if you just undo the sump drain bolt and just drop the oil in the sump. This is compared to the 10 to 12 liter that we pumped through the system. That's not much really. Right guys, that was all. This was still just a change of the gearbox fluid the way it should be done. I know it's hard without the tool though. Right, take care, see you next time.